So this is the Ramana Maharshi 40 Verses on Reality, time to listen, reflect, and to deeply inquire into the self. Know yourself and be always free and at peace. Welcome. I'm Richard Clarke, hosting this satsang. I'm a seeker like you, sharing what we love. I've been blessed with years of deep practice and deep experience that I bring to this satsang. This week's reading from 40 Verses on Reality is verse 38. As long as a man is the doer, he also reaps the fruit of his deeds. But as soon as he realizes the self through inquiry as to who is the doer, his sense of being the doer falls away, and the triple karma, Sanchita, Agami and Prarabdha, karma from a previous life, from the present life, and that is being worked out in this life, is ended. This is the state of eternal liberation. For whom is the karma? It's for the one who acts. The actor receives the fruit of the actions, the karma. The body acts. Do you act? Does the self act? Who then is the karma for? Let's look at this. First, are you the body? The body acts. Are you the body? You know the body. The body does not know you. Check this within yourself right now. Do you know the body? Does the body know you? The body changes. Do you change? You are in your oldest memory. Have you changed? The body has changed since this memory, but has the real you changed? The real you that is behind all these thoughts and ideas, memories and experiences. The body had a beginning. Did you? A Zen question is, who were you before you were born? This is not a bad line of inquiry. When inquiring into and negating the body, you need to go further than just the body. You need to look into the attributes of the body, like the action of the body. If you're not a body, you are none of its attributes, like being a man or a woman, tall or short, etc. If you are not the body, are you anything the body does? Trace out these actions. The body acts as directed to act by the mind. The mind directs that action because of a desire. The desire is actually due to an error in understanding where happiness really comes from. You think happiness is gained from things external to you. You want the happiness, and so direct the body to act to gain it. But since you are truly all, one and non-dual, there is nothing outside of yourself to desire. These desires are from the mind, with the base idea that you are an individual. So desires start with the ego I, and then move through the mind to the body which acts. These actions are then for the ego. Are you an ego? Before you can release the idea of being the actor, the one who chooses, you need to delve into the question, am I the ego? If you are the ego, then the action is for you and the karma is for you too. If you're not the body, then the action does not have anything to do with you, except as consciousness you know the action. Knowing it does not make it yours, though, just like knowing a cloud that passes by does not make that cloud you. It's only when you clearly understand this question about body and action and karma that you can know the truth experientially. The inquiry is not complete until it turns into your direct, immediate, experiential knowledge. Now, some notes on practice to experience this within yourself. Here are some questions you can investigate. Who is the actor? Who takes action? Are you the doer? Does the vast absolute ever act? Does it do anything? Does existence do anything? Does existence need anything? How can the perfect fullness get more full? Now to our videos for this week. First is Swami Adyasakti, also on verse 38.
Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala.
Namaste, and welcome to another episode of Uladu Narpadu. So today we're going to look into verse 38. If we are the doer of actions, karmas, which are like seeds, we shall experience the resulting fruits. But when one knows oneself by inquiring, who is the doer of actions? In other words, who am I? The sense of I am the doer will disappear. Hence, all three types of karma, Agami, Sanchita, and Prarabdha, will slip away, since the ego, the doer of the actions and the experiencer of their fruits, will no longer exist. The resulting state, which is devoid of ego, and which is consequently devoid of the bondage of karma, indeed is the state of liberation, which is eternal. That is, our ever-existing natural state. So, Uladu Narpadu is about what is, the nature of reality. Uladu, in Tamil, means that which is, what is real, what always is, and what cannot not be. But we are separated from that by ego, by the sense of individuality. And so we assign ourselves, in the sense of the ego, the individual identity, the role of the doer, not realizing that that also assigns us as the recipient of the resulting karmas. So there are three types of karmas discussed in this verse. Agami karma means the actions newly performed in this life through the sense of I am the doer, the ego. Sanchita karma means all the results of all the past agamya karmas which are in storage, so to speak, and which have not been selected for experiencing in this life. And finally, the Prarabdha karma is the share of the karmas selected by Ishvara, not by us, but by Ishvara, to be experienced in this life. So remember, in the life of the ego, in the individual existence, there is God, Ishvara. There is the world, Maya. And there is the body. And the body is taken as the self. So in this world, the body is moved around and does various things which we take credit for. I'm the doer. And because of this, we have to receive the karmic results. This is bondage. Why? Because it means we lose our freedom, and our life, our existence, and everything that happens becomes determined by karmas. And also because of ignorance, we don't understand what kinds of results these karmas will bring. We're only thinking, oh, I want to enjoy. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to own things. I want to possess things. And I want to enjoy them through sense contact. Well, okay. But there are three modes, gunas of material nature. Sattva guna, or goodness, rajo guna, or passion, and tamo guna, or ignorance. And the results of actions performed in these three modes are of the same quality as the actions themselves. So in other words, if one performs actions in goodness, charity, religious worship, study of the scriptures, different kinds of pujas, different kinds of beneficial activities in general, acquisition of knowledge and so on, these will lead to what we call good results. What we really mean by that is results in the mode of goodness. Now, these results are just as binding as any other kind of karma, but because they lead in the general direction of liberation, the wise encourage people to perform them. Thus, even though we are engaged in jnana yoga, we advise people who aren't ready for this topmost level of realization to engage in karma yoga, bhakti yoga, and raja yoga, in that order. Actually, one yoga will naturally develop into the next, just by its becoming mature. So one should have right view on this. That's why we gave in our esoteric teaching series the instructions of Bhagavan in the Upadesha Sara, that one should begin from karma yoga. So do good things, perform charitable works. The other kind is raja. Raja means passion. Because kings, of course, to be a king you have to fight. And to fight you have to be passionate. So anyone who wants to dominate and control the material world, who wants to satisfy their desires, is acting in Rajoguna. Rajoguna is characterized by unlimited longings and desires. I want this, I want that, I want to do this, I want to go there, I want to enjoy this, I want to experience that. Huh? So one becomes the doer and the enjoyer, the controller and the owner. And as a result, one has to experience so much suffering. Why is that? Because the acquisition of material goods causes suffering for others. Who are those others? The people who have to create them. Huh? Why does everybody hate the rich? Why does the 99% hate the 1%? Because the 1% owns the factories that produce the goods that all are craving, but only the rich can afford. So these people are working so hard under such debilitating conditions. Often lots of pollution, noise, overwork, bad management, being bullied, and so on, like that. Of course, they're doing it because they also want to enjoy. And they're motivated by material gain. So it's a circle. The people who are the capitalists who want to have a flourishing economy so they can become super rich, create this atmosphere where everybody has to work just to get the basic necessities of life, which are actually luxuries. I mean, viewed from the big context of human existence. And actually, people in the past who simply worked on a farm, who owned their own land, who had their own family working with them, were much happier because they were more situated in the mode of goodness. See, the result of the mode of goodness is happiness in general. Material happiness, but still, it's better than the mode of passion, because the mode of passion leads to suffering, especially when the results of the karma in the mode of passion are finished. Then what happens? Things go away. Whatever we have acquired will disappear. Whatever we have done will come to an end. Whatever we have enjoyed will stop. So we see people at the end of life especially suffering very much because they can no longer do all the things and go all the places and have all the stuff that they enjoyed. For example, even if they're married their whole life, the wife or husband may die. And this is tremendous suffering. Try to understand. Much better to counteract those attachments with sadhana and let them go. But then there's the mode of ignorance. The mode of ignorance says, all this knowledge is too much trouble. I don't need to study the scriptures. I don't even need to work. I can just hang around and get stoned and do the minimum. I don't have to really do anything or have any goal in life, except for the basic satisfaction of the senses. Now, this is basically animal life. There's no higher purpose, no knowledge, no big view of the whole purpose of life or anything like that. They're simply devoid of what we call human qualities. And because of that, the result of actions in the mode of ignorance is being born in an animal body in the next life. It's really terrible. But we can see the animal mentality developing as people do all these terrible actions. For example, meat eating. Meat eating is horrible, horrible, bad karma. Because why? So much resources are used to produce, especially beef, for human consumption, that if everybody was to stop eating meat tomorrow, we would be 70% of the way to the goals of the Paris environmental accord. 70%. 70% of what it would take to clean up this planet could be accomplished simply by everyone becoming vegetarian. So that's heavy karma. They're destroying the planet just for the pleasure of their tongue. And what's really going on is that they're addicted to the adrenaline released by the dying animal in its fear and panic at being killed. So they're actually drug addicts, speed freaks, just addicted to adrenaline and craving that drug. So then what happens though if we do our sadhana, we reach the perfection of the various yogas, and we go beyond the mind and ego? What happens then? Then there's akarma, or sometimes called naishkarma. That means the karma is still there, but it doesn't affect us. Because why? We are not the body. We are not the ego. We are not the mind. But where is the karma going to come? Maybe it will affect the body, but if we're not the body, then who cares? There's a nice quote by the Buddha that I have paraphrased several times. Now I want to read the actual quote because it's very, very salient to this point. Where there is no passion for the nutriment of consciousness, where there is no delight, no craving, then consciousness does not land there or increase. Where consciousness does not land or increase, there is no alighting of name and form. Where there is no alighting of name and form, there is no growth of fabrications. Where there is no growth of fabrications, there is no production of renewed becoming in the future. Where there is no production of renewed becoming in the future, there is no future birth, aging, and death. That, I tell you, has no sorrow, affliction, or despair. Just as if there were a roofed house or a roofed hall, having windows on the north, the south, or the east. When the sun rises and a ray has entered by way of the window, where does it land? And the querent says, on the western wall, Lord. And if there is no western wall, then where does it land? On the ground, Lord. And if there is no ground, where does it land? On the water. And if there is no water, where does it land? It does not land, Lord. In other words, there is no place for the karma to land, so it doesn't land. If there's nobody saying, I am the doer, I am the recipient of the results of action, then where is the results of action going to land? So yes, it may hit the body, it may hit the mind, but if we're not identified with them, it doesn't affect us. One simply goes on chanting the mantra, being in loving devotion with one's deity or object of love. And of course, the ultimate object of love is the self. This is Ananya Bhakti. And this is what we're going to be going into in the next series coming up. This means bhakti, or love, in the context of Advaita. So that's coming up in just a few days after we finish Uladu Narpadu. Om Tat Sat. Om Harihi Om.
And now, my teacher, Nome, with a Satsang discourse, Bodiless.
Being is absolute, beginningless, and perpetual. It is only the illusory ideas of being a body or an entity that can be embodied that ever makes it appear otherwise. Free of the I am the body misconception, and free of the idea of being an embodied entity. The nature of the jiva is Shiva. The nature of I, Brahman. Shivoham. Aham Brahmasmi. Set aside as so much delusion, any connection with the body. And what are you? Within the context of the misidentification with the body, is any confusion in relation to the senses and to the world. Stand free of the idea of being an embodied entity. And what are you? If you have not taken up residence in the body, where are you? The spaceless, the timeless is our nature. If not the body and not embodied, what experience pertains to you? And what remains to be called the individual or ego? Being is absolute, beginningless, and perpetual. And this being, this unimaginable, undifferentiated existence, is alone the self. We are not we. There is only one self. Any unhappiness is due simply to the veiling by delusion of the nature of the self. That knowledge which reveals the self as it is blissful. If you set aside misidentification by the profound inquiry, who am I? You will find this knowledge to be innate, identical with the existence or being that is known. Within the context of an ego or individual who is embodied, how this absolute self-knowledge could be beginningless and perpetual is a bit mysterious. But where being and knowing are identical, this is self-evident. It is in light of this truth that we say self-realization is not a new attainment. It is the most important thing in life to attain, the supreme goal. But it is not a new attainment. As Brahman is, as the self is, so is the realization. If timeless, then timeless. If unborn, then unborn. If ever the case, just as it is, then ever the case, just as it is. Relinquish the notions of being a body or having embodiment, and inquiring profoundly, who am I? Remain absorbed in this true knowledge. In this lies unveiled, unmixed, unending happiness, the supreme bliss of which the Vedas sing.
All right, now let us close with a little meditation, inquiry. Just sit and relax, breathe in and breathe out with long, slow breath. Feel the breath in and out, and notice that you exist. You exist and you know that you exist. And investigate, inquire within yourself. Are you a body? You know the body. Does the body know you? Are you the one who acts? Who acts? Is it the ego or is it you? You are the vast absolute. Does the vast absolute ever do anything? Does existence do anything? Or does it just exist? Does existence need anything? Or is it full and complete, just as it is? Who am I? All right. Now, uh, thank you for letting me share this teaching with you. This teaching on 40 verses on reality will continue in the following weeks. And if this satsang was of interest, I have more. I'll show you links to it after this satsang. Evelyn, I see that you have your mic now, and I hope you could hear. Can you unmute yourself if you have any comments? She
Yes,
did.
you
All
did.
right.
The icon changed, and apparently I have to that button several times. Anyway, I'm here, and I've been reading the 40 verses, and
Yes.
yeah, and I shared them with one person here who was interested. So that's
Amazing.
lovely. It's
Yes.
very amazing. Yes, yes. I kind of wondered about him for a while, and yes, he came to see me today to get some seeds. But the comment, I'm reading Siddhartha, and that's tremendously helpful for each
Hmm.
verse. And I would say, the inquiry, uh, it's winning. I'll say that it's winning.
Hmm.
uh, like even now, with trying to figure out the the microphone and turning on all the permissions, and just noticing the body's just doing its thing, and there's not ever any doubt as to who I am. There
That's
just isn't.
perfect.
There's no doubt. And now it's almost like taking a fly and won't like when something comes up. It's like, oh yeah, not me, not mine. So that whole misidentification business thing has really been just a reconfirmation and a new way of looking at, of relating to that as well. But that sounds contradictory, but it isn't. It's so hard to speak about this for me. It's very hard.
Yes. Well,
I don't
language isn't made for this
know,
kind of discussion.
not at all. No. But thank goodness, language has been used, because without that, where would we be,
Yes.
Unless, and often I think what it must have been like to sit directly in the presence of Ramana,
Yes.
and that
Yes.
transmission in silence, really silence, is the purest of all.
Well, we're fortunate to have what we have of his words and teachings that are left for us to be able to use.
Yeah, and I sometimes I do talk to him on occasion, and I said, you started this. You're the one. You're the one
Yes.
that pushed that book in front of my face. I said, okay, now you have to finish it.
Anyway, very good. Thank you for joining us and having
Thank
the
you.
patience to push buttons. And I wish I could
Yeah,
figure out which button to push to make
well,
my camera work.
this tablet's limited. It has a little, audio thing, but it doesn't have a microphone to say unmute unless I push it several times. It took me a while to figure that out. I guess I got mad at it and You turned yourself on. It's nice to see you, Carol.
It's good to
Anyway,
see you, Evelyn.
very
And
good.
next week, maybe we'll all be able to see and hear all the whole thing.
Yes, I'll get a good friend of mine to come. She's a real genius. But anyway,
Very good.
take good care of yourselves.
Very
You too.
good. Namaste.
Namaste.